off your shades, it helps see through the smoke, cause the wicked hide behind the cloak. And if you stay in the mist, you gon' be soaked. So listen up, cause this hair of the dog, what's real, what ain't, is this the fog or smog? Cause there's a difference when you breathe it in. So don't let the corporate media take you for a spin. This that morning show, they put you in the know. So I hope that you ready, cause all we do is go, go, go. Yeah, come get your info, you gon' be like, whoa. Hair of the dog, we bout that, ayy. We in the zone, we out here, yeah. Speeding the facts.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hair of the Dog. I'm Andy Kennedy. It is Friday. Yay. We have got a huge show. Well, no, we don't. We've got a small show, and Gary and I are probably going to just talk for a little while, and then we're going to boot early. You know, we're going to pretend, well, it is Friday, right? We're going to try to leave early without getting caught by the boss. So enough about me. Let's talk to Carrie. Hello, Carrie Barber. How are you this morning?
Hey, Andy. I'm pissed, actually. So it happens, particularly when you have a live show. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, everyone else who's tuning in. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Bear with me for a moment because I'm pissed. So when you have a live show and you work to bring on interesting guests and things like that, and then they cancel. It kind of leaves you hanging, which is the situation we've been in. And honestly, Andy, we've gotten lucky. This is the first time it's happened like this, right? Like 5 minutes before we're supposed to go live. Yeah. Okay. So, dude, let's go into what happened. All right. So I feel like it was a confluence of events. So I blew out my knee, was not near a computer, couldn't sit at a computer for 2 days. So apparently our guest who had corresponded with me by telephone decided that he was not going to join, and we'll get into why in a second, but sent me an email, which gets buried in the way Gmail works. I struggle with it because I also have other things going on, but I struggle with it. So I didn't see it, no phone call, no nothing, just, yeah, I'm not gonna be there. I didn't see it till this morning. So I'm struggling, and this is where my type A personality is really, really pissed because I don't miss deadlines. I don't not get my work done. I don't not do the preparation. Andy, you got up, took a shower.
I know, right? Early this season.
Right, this season. Oh, that was good.
It's always, well, you know what, and this has always been a personal pet peeve. There are so many methods now of communication, right? There's instant access to information. If you want to send a text, to make a phone call, to send a chat in Messenger or a DM in Twitter, or there's just Signal. There's so many different ways to talk to people now, right? Mm-hmm. The one that I absolutely despise is emails. I've never liked emails since emails came out, right? You always have to be there. I can't have notifications on my email because it will notify me every time I get a piece of spam, which is once every 3.2 seconds, right? And so it's always been a horrible way to communicate. And there are some people that will not give up their emails. They just love them. And it's always driven me nuts. And, you know, to each his own, his or her own, but it's just, it's an easy way for stuff to get lost, right? And the perfect example I have of that is that I was corresponding with I've done DJing in the past, and I was going to DJ a wedding. And of course, you know, the couple have to send you their choices for different songs that they've requested, and for their first dance, and the father-daughter, mother-son dances, and all of those things, right? And I'd been talking to them on the phone, sending messenger chats back and forth, getting all the information. Well, they didn't decide it. They hadn't decided on what their first dance was going to be, right? Okay, well, I'm going to get back to you and I'll let you know once we decide. Well, it kind of left I thought I had everything and whatever. Well, I get to the dance and I assume, okay, well, I guess they're just going to get me to play a random song. Well, they'd made a choice and sent it by email. And we hadn't communicated by email. So, of course, the song that they found, I didn't have. So what are we going to do? And we were in a place, it was the middle of a field, right, in this old converted barn, right, with no signal whatsoever. Oh, no. Like, how am I going to get this song? So I had to send somebody in their car to go download it in a place where there was a signal, bring it back, use their phone to go through my system to play the song for them, right? It's the email.
This is a hilarious story. So, okay, Mike, happy belated birthday, Mike, by the way. Mike is weighing in on the chat, and he's saying, hey, where do I send a fax to DLF? That's hilarious. And then he says, do you have a telegraph? That's my preferred method. Okay, so let's step back a little bit. Now, I'm a little bit older. I'm not hip. But there are certain protocols, right? So if you arrange a conversation via phone, you break those also. You also break the arrangement by phone. And then there's also, from a professional standpoint, the standard is email is a 24-hour response. Phone call right away, right? And if you're in business like we are here, or you're a professional, you make the phone call. So this is kind of where I'm struggling a little bit. And then so let's get to the meat of this issue. Oh, Mike. Okay, so Mike is now putting in Morse code. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. But so the meat of this issue for me is, all right. So when you deal with unions, and Andy, you've been a union member forever. I am a member of CWA for journalism. The rest of us are working on actually getting our own union number. The problem that we have on our media network, it was hilarious talking to CWA. They're like, you have no management to fight. You all want to be part of a union. We don't know how to do this. We've never done this in the history of our union. So this is why it's taken so long to get us our local number, because there's nothing.
How can you fight the man when there's no man?
Right, or when all the men and women in this organization want to be union members. So this is kind of a weird position that we've been in. So some of us have joined as CWA News Guild members independently. So when you're working with a union shop, sometimes they other union members feel funny about how you get your material. And you see this a lot in political campaigns, particularly if you're running on the left as a Democrat or something like that. And if you pass out a card and it doesn't have a union bug on it, people freak the hell out. Absolutely.
And I understand that, right?
Yeah.
It's especially considering that how the plight of the unions has gone over the last, say 3 to 4 decades, right?
From a political standpoint, they did it to themselves. And let me explain why. Hold on. From my experience working with a candidate, right? I've got this great candidate, and myself, I full union. I did report after report, publication, op-eds, all of this, totally on board with the union. What did the union do, right? I showed up with my union bug. Hey guys, I really need your support. I want to do X, Y, and Z, and I want to support all of your work and promote unions. They gave money to my opponent who said they hate them. And the excuse that they gave to me, and I've seen this over and over again, was, well, this person is going to support this project that we really like, so we're just going to get them reelected. I'm like, but they've been screwing you. They give you lip service, and they're like, yeah, but we've kind of always done it this way. right? So it's a catch-22 with the unions.
But you can't cherry pick your own personal experience and make
I'm
a blanket statement.
I'm not. I'm saying that I've seen this over and over and over again, particularly in Illinois, right? So if you look up who the unions are actually giving money to and who they're endorsing, it's right down the line. Republican and Democrat. Well, we know that the Republicans hate the unions, especially in right-to-work states, and they're trying to make more of them. So this is where the union members and the union leaders who are making those decisions on a political front are not in agreement. So that is my pushback. And it's not just from my experience. This is across board. Every candidate I've ever had who was in the left is getting screwed by unions. Not the union itself, let me clarify, union leadership, the people who are in the political piece of it and decide who gets endorsements. Absolutely. I stand by it. I can prove it.
No, I'm just saying that there's more to unionism in than just the political environment, though, right? Like, I mean, I was involved in used to be the CAW, which ended up changing its name to Unifor, because it consolidated a bunch of unions. It had nothing to do with politics, right? It was an auto workers union. Well, you know what I mean. It's not dealing with political candidates, right? But the entire union, when the unions were strong back before, the 60s, between the 30s and the 60s, during the FDR New Deal time, when life for especially Americans was probably the best, and with the socialist style agenda that brought in, that ushered into society, right? Unions were very strong. People were very comfortable. You could have one person as a income in your family, be able to have a very comfortable life, right? And then during the time of the late 60s, early 70s, when neoliberalism took over, right? It was a very anti-union strategy that's defanged unions over the last 4 to 5 decades, right? With right-to-work states and taking away a union's ability to strike. Mm-hmm. I mean, why have a union if you can't threaten to remove your labor?
Well,
I think that whole thing. And that's my point, is that as a union person, as a union member, I've seen all those changes, right? I started at the automotive plant at age 21 back in the 80s, right? The unions were very strong, still fairly strong back then, right? We had a reasonable share of capital. We didn't have to of the wealth that was being made by the combination of capital and labor, right? But that was at that point, it was starting with Reagan bringing in ushering in the neoliberal society that we now find ourselves coming to the end of, right? Mm-hmm. Where the top elitist percentage of people are getting all of the gains of society, and the bottom outside of that elitist group gets nothing, right? To the point where now we're just seeing that the society as it is about to break down. Well, part of that is the fact that the unions were not able to properly fight for their workers, right? They're really the only friend a worker has in society. And that's so seeing that whole thing transition to where we are now jades you to being leery of dealing with other people, right? If I'm a union member and I know that unions are taking a shit kicking, then I will, because of my position, say, well, I'm only going to deal with other union shops, right? And that's a mindset that you get into, and it's understandable, right? But I think in our case here, what happened this morning, it kind of maybe could have been cleared up with a single phone call that never happened.
Right. Well, let's back up a little bit because I think we're talking around and people don't really understand. So the cancellation was prefaced by you sell products on your website, therefore I cannot participate in your program. So we're making some generalized assumptions about why that would be. So first, that could be a complete and utter bullshit response. I don't think it is. I think that there's some truth to that statement. However, why would that be? And so we're going into, because we have union experience, union memberships, maybe it's because there's a union piece of it. But here's the thing, right? So going back to political experience, there are so few union printers for cardstock and things like this for campaigns. Try to find a union printer when it comes to T-shirts and blankets and pillows. Good luck. Good luck. I think there's maybe one or two in the entire country, right? And then, so then it comes back to, how do we get funding for our media? So what we do here, and we've talked about this, Andy, and you've got this podcast coming out tomorrow with Jordan, that all deals with this, right? So either you are a think tank offshoot journalist and you're getting money from dark sources, and that's how you get your paycheck and you can do your reporting, or you're with corporate news and they tell you what you can and cannot say, or you're independent and you better find your way as best you can, right? And in that space where we operate, what we chose to do is we're going to have private patron donors, and we're going to have merchandise that we sell, just like any other union shop would have. But I think that there's a disconnect between an older generation and how things work today when it comes to that union space.
Yeah, and so, I agree with that. I think that, we've said it before, the remaining Koch brother and George Soros are not sending us checks. Right?
No.
We are not getting cut checks from those sources, right? The only people that get funding from those sources are ones that are willing to, change their narrative that meets up with those sources, right? And that's part of the progressive agenda, is that we don't take that money. We will be funded from the grassroots. That being said, it's just bad timing on our part, where the people that we would be reaching that would necessarily be the ones that want to hear our message or want to promote our message are the ones that want to usher in change, because they're the most affected by the current conditions. And because of the pandemic, they don't have any extra money right now, right? So it's a catch-22. So what do you do?
Yeah, and I think this is, so if you're, let's, for example, you're a journalist with 30, 40 years of experience and you're getting a paycheck and all of this sort of thing. These are not concerns that you need worry about, other than, your space with the 3 Fs. So it makes sense. Why would you give a shit about anybody else trying to do this thing and the next generation of investigative journalists and people doing things? You wouldn't give a shit. But this is kind of where it's going to affect you when you finally do hang up and put your pen down, or quill, or whatever it may be. And now you're going to rely on this next generation that you did not support necessarily as in your waning years, right? So
yeah, and I can see that side. I just, let's be perfectly clear. This is not, we did not come on here this morning without our guest to, knock down our guest, to cut down our guest, right? I don't know this gentleman. I've never been introduced to him. Would have been an interesting conversation, right? I think the only point really that trying to make is that if you have trepidation about coming on our show, a single phone call may have alleviated that, right?
Oh, in that situation, yeah, but I'm taking it from the larger point of view, and this person is very well respected, and so I'm setting that aside. I'm speaking in general terms, right? So,
right.
This
Let's
is
just
why,
be clear that this isn't a bitch session about said
So,
that.
right. So this is why I try to go on and help other small, like Kuberos and Shane Coughlin's show out of New York. I will spend time and effort to help support that because Shane is much younger than I am. I have far more experience, so it's my opportunity to help mentor in some way, but then ultimately Shane's going to take it whatever way he wants to go and find his own cadence and niche. So this is where I'm really looking at it from that particular standpoint. But what did Mike say now? Mike says, this is similar to when a band signs a contract with a record label, then gets called a sellout, as if there was some other way to pay the bills and put food on the table. Yeah, and that's kind of where we're taking the conversation now. How do you get your money, right? If it's acceptable to take ad revenue from Nike or Procter & Gamble for corporate media, is it not also acceptable for smaller media outlets like ours to take $5 from somebody who gets a t-shirt in exchange?
Yeah, it's actually funny that Mike would bring that up because it just briefly, there's a kind of a funny story. It was a band that I had a little side gig with for a while, and we were booked to play a show at the specific bar, and I guess the bar owner had just purchased this place, and we didn't even know who this person was, didn't really even talk to him. We'd always played this place with the owner, who was a good guy, and this new guy, it turns out that he'd never been a bar owner before, right? So he booked us to play. We showed up, there was nobody in the club. Find out that this guy did no advertising whatsoever. So we set up and started our show. At the end of the first set, he turned to us and said, "Look, the place is empty. You guys are done. I'm not paying you. I'll give you a few bucks to cover your expenses. Tear down, go home." Right? He was mad that we didn't bring the crowd.
What?
Oh yeah. That happens a lot. I've dealt with bar owners that expect that they're not going to be a penny out of pocket to have a band come in. They undercut your price so that to get you to play, and then they expect you to bring the crowd to a place in another town where you an hour and a half away from where your home is. Oh, that's exactly the same thing. But that's just a little side story I just wanted to share.
Yeah, and I think maybe this is where like service contracts or service agreements, everybody has their expectations up front. So, yeah. So, all right. Well, like I said, this is, we've gotten lucky in over 108 episodes. Never had this happen. So,
yeah.
It's whatever.
Yeah,
so,
and like everything else, typically, it's just a misunderstanding, right? That could have been cleared up easily, but
yeah.
So, I don't wish anything, any ill will to our guest or anything. Like I said, I just don't know what it is. It's just unfortunate now that people have to listen to you and I just chat and bitch and moan for a bit.
Right, because I'm unprepared. So that's also a good, for me. But what we can talk about, and I posted this in our group. What's his face? The guy from Florida, Bo of the Fifth Column.
Yes.
I really liked, he had a post yesterday, I think it was yesterday, a video post about the Republican Party. He was talking about how there was a conference call with 100 different Republican elected officials, some pretty high profile. I don't know specifically who they were, but he mentioned that they're talking about forming a new Republican Party or a new conservative party and calling it the Conservative the center right party. I was like, okay, that's interesting. I can see that. But then he said,
Democrats are going to vote for him now.
Right. And that's what he said. We already have a center right party. We call them the Democrats. And I was like, oh, he went there. But it's right. So I like the idea because you can have the center right conservatives and the third way Dems go back home and put those groups together, and then maybe we could actually have a party who is focused on working people, and I think that would be great.
And progressive policies. Oh, imagine.
Yeah,
Would that be nice?
So I thought that was interesting. And then on the subject of journalism and everybody getting screwed, you've got this podcast coming out tomorrow for Macro and Cheese. Jordan's making the rounds. What's going on with Jordan?
Well, Jordan's been, poor guy. He dealt with COVID there in the last wave for, getting sick, and then apparently his partner in crime, Jen, she's had COVID for like 3 months or something, and so they're trying to deal with all of everything that's going on, and then from what I understand, I think Jordan's been adversely affected by YouTube's latest crackdown on the left, right? And the same with the Convo Couch and Jamal Thomas and all a bunch of different left media groups that are now no longer allowed to monetize their streams ever. Right. And then of course we saw yesterday there's a post claiming that Mark Zuckerberg is trying to ban all political exchanges on Facebook. I said, well, okay, I guess basically if you've got a cat video, you can post.
Right. And the way that I look at all of this is from a military strategy point. So if you want to win a battle or win a war, you go after the supply chain. And so I see the financial component and what they're doing as a way to cut off the supply. Like, for example, Jordan, I know that Jordan, this is his full-time job, so he needs that money to eat and pay rent, so he's not in the street, right? So that's all admirable. He's pulling himself up by his bootstraps, job creator, right? So
yeah. Hope he's not selling merchandise.
Well, and that's just it. So when you have a corporate policy that you as a journalist cannot go on to another program if they're selling merchandise, that is also a way to stifle not only competition, but to make sure that other outlets are not successful. So all of these go into a larger strategy of censorship and manipulation. And we don't necessarily see it that way, but that's exactly what it is. So we've had that show, and Mike was our guest talking about censorship and why. Look, I do not subscribe to white supremacy. I recognize that it is a false ideology built on fear and just a weakness.
And ignorance.
You're right. But I will not try to censor somebody. What I will do is, and I have personally done this, I'm going to stand up next to them, listen to them, and then say, okay, well, here is where I think you need to consider some other things, and then completely destroy them. And that, I think, has more merit and value. But when we're trying to overtly on the left, when you have politicians like AOC and others talking about clamping down on the rhetoric on social media, this is what they mean.
Yeah.
That you're only going to get your news source through approved propaganda outlets like Politico. And if you're okay with that, then welcome to fascism. So. Yeah,
and that's the key right now, right? We're in a very dangerous transition as far as our social media, alternative media, whatever, independent media, whatever you want to call us, is that we're just fighting to get a message out there, right? On a platform that is controlled by corporations, right? And so ultimately they can, as legally, whether you believe it's ethical or not, they can censor what we put out there, right? And they're starting to do that. We've had on the other platform that I work on Real Progressives. There's one of our members posted something about Biden before the election, so 3 months ago. That was taken down yesterday as I believe it was against community standards. It was just one of the run-of-the-mill why I'm not voting for Biden posts from 3 months ago. And because it's a page with 130,000 followers on it, they've limited our ability to post now. Right? It's just a random thing. This is what we're up against now. This is just the start of clamping down on the left, right? So we're dealing with having a very limited voice, and the pushback right now is they want to deplatform us. Well, how do we get our message out? That's the scariest thing.
Well, Andy, you're supposed to have, a couple $1 billion to build your own platform, and that's exactly what the expectation is.
Yeah, well, the problem with printing your own money is, and anybody can print their own currency. It's just getting people to accept it, right?
Right.
Hyman Minsky's famous quote: "Anybody can make money. It's just getting people to give it value."
Emperor Norton out of San Francisco, he did it. And it was accepted. So if he could do it, Andy, you're just not working hard enough.
Oh, yes. Bootstraps. Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Exactly.
Well,
so just one more resource, and this is one that I recommend because I am not watching the next impeachment trial. I cannot watch NERA. I've tuned out a lot of what's going on C-SPAN right now. So I get my great updates from Evening Skews with Trey Crowder. I think he compressed it, like I was watching the show this morning, he compressed it all into like a good 20-minute update. And so I recommend highly go watch Evening Skews for your Congress shit show kind of thing. And Senator Sanders, I think, was pretty hilarious in all of this, because here you have, I guess, God, I don't even want to talk about her, but Neera sat down with Sanders and had a mea culpa moment, and that Sanders is just going to be like, okay, come on, and so he's there being very nice at the entire hearing, and somebody said something about, you remember the old Saturday Night Live thing, Jane,
you ignorant slut.
Right. So tongue in cheek, someone else said it. So that now has become a sound bite. It was kind of funny.
Yes. And trending now on Twitter is ignorant sluts for Bernie.
Excellent. Right.
Yes.
We have deplorable.
Well, and just to tie that together with the censorship that we're starting to see, one of our members on one of the groups that's affiliated with the Real Progressives page posted yesterday just a clip of the open hearings to either confirm or deny Neera Tanden of a senator saying something, her response, and then Bernie's response. Just
right.
the regular C-SPAN that's out there. Facebook took it down because it was against their terms of service or goes against their community standards.
Yeah, well,
something that is widely available online.
Yeah, even the quotes by members of Congress would no longer be part of the community standards. So this is going to be a conversation that we have going forward. It's arbitrary, and they just, like you said, it's not equally applied. They're just out there doing it. And let's be honest, some of Facebook's folks don't speak English as a primary language. So or English at all. So how do you judge community standards? I'm not, I mean, I don't condone outsourcing jobs, but I understand why they do it. Offshoring, I think, is the polite term, but
yes.
But yeah, all right, Andy, I feel like I'm just rambling at this point. Let's get into the weekend and we'll start fresh Monday.
All right. I'm sure after, well, I was going to mention, I said, there's nothing like a grumpy feeling as a perfect excuse to start drinking early in the day.
There we go. Yes, 5 o'clock somewhere. So real quick, before we do get out of here and get back into professional mode, we have some really great programs actually coming up. And the first one is today. This is, if you don't have HBO Max, get it. And today is the last day that you can kind of enter our sort of competition. If you like, tweet, and share the post that we have about Judas and the Black Messiah, you may be able to get 1 month of HBO Max paid for. It's a $15 value, and happy to cover that for you because this movie is so long overdue. This is about the Fred Hampton story, a small snippet of the Fred Hampton story and the origins of the Rainbow Coalition and what was actually happening around that time. So that movie actually comes out today on HBO Max. See it. If you need help seeing it, jump on our Facebook page, Twitter, or something like that, and just enter it and you may win. So, there's that. And then tomorrow we have this, you know what? I was always a fan of Angela Walker. Angela Walker was the 2020 vice presidential candidate for the Green Party. I always liked her. But now she did this interview with Rome Bethia for Rome's Rebellion. I've seen it. Now I am head over heels in love with this woman. She is amazing. Seeing her out of the campaign mode and just a real regular person talking about some of these issues. Holy cow, I am totally fangirling over Angela Walker, and that interview comes out tomorrow night on Rome's Rebellion. So
isn't it funny that that if you're going to change shirts, right? Like if you're going to put on your political shirt and behave yourself and mind your P's and Q's on the campaign trail, and then after that's done, you put your activist shirt on. It's amazing what you can now say that you couldn't before, right?
Yeah.
And it's good, and then, like, I mean, that's why we always talk about that the change is going to come from the ground, from the activism, from the stuff that the centrists say that doesn't work or we can't do, right? It's always comes from the ground level. It always comes from grassroots, and that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to give too much away, but she makes some really, really interesting points in it. And I just love the interplay between Rome and Angela in this interview. I think it's great. And if you happen to be a Patreon subscriber for Rome, you can watch it now. So you get a double header today. You get Judas and the Black Messiah and Angela Walker. So the Queen.
You can't ask for much more than that. Okay?
Right. See, and this is the day. Pack a bowl, get your drink ready, and just watch all of this stuff.
And if you're not into that, throw a bag of popcorn in the microwave and then a dish of butter to put on top of it.
There you go. The whole 9 yards. So yeah, that works.
You're gonna need the extra calories.
Oh God, yeah. We've got snow all through the U.S. and in fact, we're getting snow here. We're getting like 5 inches this week.
Oh, we're not.
No, because you've already got it. That's why.
Yes. I'm in a unique position where I have to snow blow some of my backyard so my tiny dogs can go poop.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. All right. I'll stop talking now. We can get the hell out of here if you want.
All right, everybody, have a good weekend. And my apologies. We will be better prepared on Monday. Guarantee it. And I'm sure that this weekend will provide plenty of fodder to talk about. But thank you for tuning in and hope you have a really good, safe weekend. Have a good one.
See you Monday. Take care.
We bout that, ayy. We in the zone. We out here, yeah. Spitting the facts, how it's supposed to be. Hair of the dog, we keep it nigga G.